Man.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
Man.
You know, it's one thing I get told that. See, I'm doing it already. The episode just fucking started. I touch my face a lot on the podcast. I didn't notice that.
Have people said you do that? People told you
Yeah,
do that?
I got a text message telling me that, and I was like, yeah, I do. Oh man, I didn't even think I did that, but I guess I do.
Oh no. Well, people who listen can't tell, but people who watch on YouTube, they can tell.
Absolutely, that's what a premium content is.
You know what's funny is I was just about to say the thing that I noticed that I do on the podcast a lot is I say and literally before I was about to say it, I went I was like to prepare to say I say a lot, which annoys the shit out of me when I listen back to the podcast. I just I can't stand it. I try not to say when I don't have anything to say, but I do it every time. I'm doing my best. I'm sorry, everyone.
I do but
we should put out a shirt. We should put out a shirt that's our faces from our avatars and with talking bubbles, and I'm just saying and you're saying but that should be our first piece of merch.
Yeah. I would buy it.
Hey, comment below if you'd buy that shirt. It's a really smart idea that I just came up with. We'll make
with a flower emoji and a money bag emoji, and it would be me and
you. Yeah. Flower bags.
Flower bags. That's it.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. We should just start releasing our merch. Should just say fuck. It should be nothing but the word fuck. Here, buy our new Cartoons That Curse sweater. It's our new fuck hoodie.
Yo,
man.
Honestly, you know what's so funny about that is that like we're like dicking around, but I am 90% sure that there are people out there that would wear a hoodie that say fuck in the same way that it says in the theme song with that font. It's spelled that way. I'm like, people would wear that. They would get that. Especially if we could like put like some kind of hologram on it, so like it shakes on the shirt like how it does in the theme. While we killing them. Yeah.
We should make hologram shirts. That's a genius idea.
And they're really cheap too, right? That doesn't sound expensive.
Nah, we'll just have to invent it and then make it real affordable.
Right. So by next week.
Yeah, perfect. Honestly, we do have such good logos thanks to Kerrifique, our incredible avatars and logo.
Yeah, Kerry killed it.
We should probably put that shit on some merch.
Yeah. Remember one of the last touches that she did that I think completes it was that she turned the R's backwards in the
in the Cartoons That Curse. Yeah,
they weren't always backwards.
That was great.
And that was one of the last things she did. And that was because I think she sent a version where they weren't backwards, and she sent one where they were. And I was like, oh, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one with them flip.
Yeah, the flip worked great. I remember when we got that one in. That one's so good. You know what? Comment below. You want some merch? We'll do a mug. Do a mug with our faces on it, or a logo, maybe a sweater.
Family Guy meter.
Yeah, the Family Guy meter.
Paddington. We can't put Paddington on the shirt.
We can't put Paddington, but we can. But we should. What we should do is we should do our logo, and instead of the curse in it, it just says Paddington 2.
You know what? I would wear that. Like that's the one that I would buy.
Right. We should also what we should do is we should put out a shirt with my avatar and a shirt with your avatar, and then we can see who sells more. Whose face do they like more?
The battle of the hands, boy, I love that. Let's see what they really siding with. Who's the fan favorite?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is we'll put that out and we'll be so ready to jokingly fight about it on the pod, but then neither will sell any, and we'll just be sad. All right. comment below. You want some cartoons that curse merch? We gotta figure some of this shit out. Maybe we gotta start a Patreon. We gotta make some merch. We gotta do a lot of stuff. We gotta start putting ads on our podcast because we get good listenership and we haven't fucked with that yet.
Right.
Y'all are getting this beautiful content for free, except for on YouTube. We do put ads on YouTube.
That's true. I did tell you about that a couple days ago. Remember I told you about that idea I had for Patreon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Should we plug it? Should we say the idea and see if people are interested?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it. Pitch it.
To do cartoons that drink. Me and Johnny get drunk and record an episode. Not it wouldn't be like a regular thing because like our livers, but we do it every once in a while.
Fair. And, should we do an episode drunk, or should we record record commentary for a movie drunk?
I don't know. Both of those things sound funny though.
You guys want to hear me? You guys want to hear me talk about why I don't like Shrek while I'm drunk?
Thank you for saying this, because I thought about texting this to you at least 3 times last week. They curse in every Shrek movie. Can we do the Shrek movies? Is that something that we can do, or are we breaking?
The question is, do I want to get a lot of hate for not liking Shrek?
True. I don't. Me personally, I feel like me and you could have a civil conversation about these Shrek films. I don't want to.
I do think those would be really good episodes. I think we would make really good. I think we would make really good episodes about Shrek. I really believe that.
Remember what when I first found out that you didn't like them, and we had that pretty long conversation about the theming. Like that was an interesting conversation.
It was. It was good. Yeah, and for those who don't, here's a fun and true story. I on stream revealed that I don't like the Shrek movies very much, and as a prank, Tariq sent me a Blu-ray set of every Shrek movie.
I sent all
to my house.
I sent all 4 Shreks.
And I even rewatched. I rewatched the first 2. I was just like, all right, you know what? Everyone loves these movies. I gotta see if I'm just wrong. And I rewatched the first 2. Still don't love them, but you know what? We gotta do it.
I was happy to at least that you acknowledge that, like, okay, the second one is like a competently put together film. Like at the very least, you were able to say that, which I
think it's there's a lot about the second one I did like. I just don't think I vibe. I will talk about it when we cover Shrek. Now we're talking about it right here, and I'm like, well, we're gonna cover Shrek now. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put Shrek behind the paywall. We're gonna start a Patreon, and the first thing,
that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, the first thing you're gonna get is like 4 Shrek commentaries or episodes of us just discussing Shrek and its theming. And one person who really likes Shrek and one person who's not that high on Shrek, and I think it'll be really good.
We should do Shrek drunk.
Yes. Okay.
We should do Shrek drunk.
Done. Comment below if you agree that that's a great idea. Thank you.
And even if you don't, we still might do it.
Yeah, we're probably still gonna do it. People are gonna be like, I don't want to pay for that, and I'm gonna say, but you want it. And you probably will pay for it.
Yeah, what you gonna do? Buy the bootleg? Come on, man.
Yeah, who knows? People might be bootlegging our shit. We'll find out.
I won't put it
you know what? That's a good opening. Let's cue that theme song. Cue it.
I've been watching them for years. It's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a hill, a burger banging running from the show and Spies is the same guy, except he totally say and diverse.
Let's watch cartoons that curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
That's rough.
What the f*** is up, everybody? Welcome to Cartoons That Curse. My name is Johnny. This is my co-host Tariq. How you doing, Tariq?
I'm all right. Yeah.
You all right?
I'm all right. It's a lot going on that we talked about earlier, but I'm all right.
This is Cartoons That Curse, the cartoon podcast where we talk about curses. Not really. We talk about cartoons that say curses. We
Yeah.
don't really talk about the curses themselves that much.
I honestly
Not.
can't think of one time we've talked about the usage of a swear or anything. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what we did in the Simpsons movie episode last week, talking about them not saying bullshit or not saying shit.
Right.
Yeah, that was it's a good
goddamn.
episode. Simpsons movie, great episode. This week we'll see. We'll find out. So if you're listening to this, some of you might be confused because our Twitter poll very much indicated we would be talking about Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Right.
But we also posted a poll on our YouTube community page, and we got way more votes, and that one went to Stewie Griffin. I tallied it up. I did the math, did the science, as Tariq likes to say.
He did the
science. and it turns out Stewie Griffin Untold Story is what got significantly more votes overall. So if you're just following along on Twitter, you're confused. Sorry, we're talking about Family Guy, Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story.
YouTube,
which, as it turns out... Sorry, go ahead.
So you gotta get on YouTube, man. You know what's funny? Did you see that comment that we got the other day? Where somebody was like, "Wait, so this has been on YouTube the whole time?" And it's like,
I didn't see that comment. Actually,
somebody commented. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, they were like, "You're like, wait, so I've been listening to this podcast on Spotify like a barbarian, and it's been on YouTube this whole time." Well,
yeah, now they got to listen to every episode again so they can see our beautiful faces.
That's true.
And
yeah.
Continue to give us those sweet views, but also listen on Spotify because I want to hit those Spotify charts again. That was a real boost to the ego.
Yeah, it was. It made me feel like we were doing some really important shit. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Hell yeah. We'll hit it again, especially when we cover like BoJack. Everyone wants to hear us talk about BoJack. But today we're going to talk about Family Guy, which is a show we've talked about in a lot of episodes because my friend Tariq here is a big fan.
Yes.
And this is a weird place to start, truthfully. We just had these weird weeks. I'm busy. We don't have time to watch a whole season right now, so we've been doing these movies. And truthfully, we probably should have just gone with Beavis and Butthead because that's a real movie.
Yeah. This watch, I guess we're in it, so we'll talk about it. But like this watch probably taught both of us a lot because it definitely taught me a lot.
Yeah, this is very much like the thing that's closest parallel here is the Futurama movies, which each of those is 4 episodes smashed together, but those were very much written as these pretty save for one, which we will talk about soon, but there is a connected story through all 4 episodes there. And while Stewie Griffin The Untold Story definitely has the Stewie, like this weird Stewie / future Stewie through line, every other story in this movie is like its own episode. Like there's 3 episodes in here, and each one has a B plot that's completely separate. And they're so weird.
It's you could cut it with a knife. Like it tells you when the next episode starts.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does everything but play the damn theme song. Like
right.
And one thing that they do, there's 3 episodes in this, and one thing that they do after the second one, which is like, yeah, I get it, it's a joke, but I was like, man, they're cheating, was where they do that intermission, where it's like, oh, so you just did that so you can have the fade out, so you can end that episode there, and you can start. I was like, oh, come on, man.
They also add so much extra content to the top and bottom of the show. The top is like the movie premiere, and then the like after party, and like clearly all of that shit was just meant for the DVD release, which is cool. I'm glad that there's at least some content that is exclusive to the movie version.
Right.
And like with the Futurama movies, there is technically shit that is like exclusive to the movie version. They cut out jokes, they trim shit, like it's shorter, but this is like 20 minutes of content cut out for the movie episode.
And
like
even like in the episodes themselves, there are jokes that like did not make it. There's there's a whole cutaway with well, like is that where the cutaway happens? I think where like Stewie's like shaving, and then he's like, Brian, can you shave my coin purse? And then like
Oh my
Brian like
God.
laughs and walks off, and then there's like a cutaway with like there's a is this the I don't all right, I'm getting it mixed up, but there's a ball sack that is a detective. Like that happens, and it's like,
Oh
you know what I'm talking
yeah.
about? Okay, yeah. Because
Yeah.
that happens in this.
Yeah. There's
Um
definitely shit like that. And like there's also like in the DVD content, like the stuff
mhm.
that is not in the 3 episodes, which they've aired the 3 episodes as episodes before and cut them down
Yes,
22
they
minutes
are the
apiece.
tail end of season 4.
Yes,
The
the
last
30
3
episode
of
season.
season
Thank
4.
God we have gotten
Right.
3 episodes knocked off of that season so that we don't fucking kill ourselves when we cover that
Oh
season
yeah,
of
that is
Family
smart because that's
Guy.
that's the one where every time we look at the Family Guy numbers, because we've contemplated it a few times. Every time we look at the Family Guy numbers, we get the season 4, and we're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Like that's the one that scares us away from it.
It might have to be it even cut down to 27 episodes. I'm kind of like, this should be 2 episodes. This is so much fucking shit
Yeah.
to talk about. But I remember vividly as a kid being kind of like at the forefront. I was a teenager when Family Guy was being brought back, and I was so fucking excited for it to come back. Like I was a huge fan of those first 3 seasons, and there was the news that they were both doing a whole new season and a movie. It was like both
Mhm.
things were happening. And I remember the show came back and I was stoked, especially that first one back. It it leaked like on my birthday, and at my
Oh,
birthday party I was like, guys, the new Family Guy leaked, and we watched it, and it was the funniest thing in the world to me, when I was 14 or 15 or whatever. And then I
that's a
remember
good
this movie came
episode
out. I
though.
went It is North by North Quahog.
Yeah,
Great
still
episode.
still still
Very
still
funny
a really
episode.
good one. It has that you know how to use one of these. You know how to use one of these.
Yeah, it was one of these. Yeah. The Passion of the Christ 2 thing is so fucking
It's
funny.
so funny.
It's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
But I remember when this came out. I remember when this movie came out. I went and got the DVD, and I was so fucking excited to watch it. And I remember how much I laughed when they dropped the first F-bomb in it, which is Lois drunk on the red carpet, and it's because it's still it's Family Guy, so like I'd only I'm used to watching it on TV. There's not much uncensored shit that I had seen before that, and it was she comes out, she's like, when I first heard we were gonna have a movie, I was like, fuck yeah. And like I
Yeah.
remember kind of losing my shit at that age, being like, oh shit.
Wait,
they
so
said fuck.
okay, so the DVD, because I brought the DVD for
Mhm.
this because I saw it. I did see it like in its entirety before owning the DVD, but I brought it before we could do this so I could listen to the audio commentary and stuff like that. And my entire DVD was like censored. So
It was
she says she does that line. She does say "fuck yeah," but like they bleep the
it
fuck.
bleeps it.
So
What's
I thought the gag was because it technically takes place on the news. So
right.
I thought that was the gag. And then like the next bleep is Peter when he's doing the it really grinds my gears, you America.
Right.
Like, and
Yes,
that's
which is
another bleep,
also
but
on the
he's
news.
also on TV. Then by the third episode, that's when I'm like, oh, they just censored the movie, is when like Chris's
Right.
wife just keeps swearing and she's
what's
still
funny?
bleeped.
What's funny is I remembered it being censored as a kid. Like I remember it being bleeped, and then I was rewatching it, and I actually couldn't find my DVD, but I had actually downloaded it a while ago for a Futurama video. I did a Futurama video, and I used the line where the guy asked Stewie if they're going to bring back Futurama, and he breaks his neck. So like I that was why I had it downloaded. So I watched that version of it for this podcast, and it's uncensored. So that's weird. That's really fucking weird.
Yeah, that was right.
that the DVD is censored and that this digital version that I don't know where it came from is not.
Right.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I also think it's funnier censored. I think swears in certain instances are funnier censored. And I
I do too.
specifically remembered thinking that when he says "fuck you, America" after "grind my gears," I remember specifically thinking this was funnier censored.
Yeah, and with Family Guy, definitely, it definitely depends. Cause like that one, I do think that one is funny as censored. But there's a joke in a later episode where it's it's like Quagmire and Peter are just at the bar by themselves. It was just the both of them, and then the
Right.
scene starts, and then Quagmire says, "Hey, so you ever just like accidentally beat off to old pictures of your mom?" And Peter says, "Who the fuck starts a conversation like that?" It's just how strongly he says it. Like, this is really funny.
Jesus Christ. Um, that's it's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, it's rough.
Man. All right. So, Tariq, you're the you're the Family Guy guy.
Family
We're
Guy guy.
talking
Yeah,
about we're talking about Family Guy.
absolutely.
What we've been waiting for this moment. How do you feel?
Uh, all right. So we're here. We're here. Stewie Griffin, Untold Story, Family Guy got canceled after season 3. They didn't know if they would
Season
be
3.
back. And then
They were gone for they were off for like a couple years.
yeah, it was like a good 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Before this got greenlit, they were moved to Adult Swim, got syndicated, became way more popular. DVDs flew off the shelves.
That's when I discovered it. I discovered it
Yeah.
watching Futurama and Family Guy on Adult Swim.
Nah, yeah, likewise, and like, you know, just the push to bring it back, and like, they came back with this feature, and I think, at least to my knowledge, Seth kind of pitched the idea of a feature, and Fox said, "Okay, yeah, for sure, but we're gonna pick you up for." I think the order. I think they said on the commentary that the order was 35.
Jesus.
Right. So, and the guy literally says like that's a lot, but they picked him up for 35, and they gave him the film. But they said if you do it, you got to split it up so we could release it as episodes as well.
As episodes.
And I think that kind of I don't know. There's a couple things that could be a factor in this, but like I feel like part of that might be putting a damper on my enjoyment of the film this time around, partially because we spent the last and that's something that we talked about earlier, but we spent the last 2 weeks watching films. Like
films.
The South Park movie is a movie. Like the Simpsons movie, that is a movie. But this is literally 3 episodes put together, but unlike Bender's Big Score, they don't try to hide it.
Right.
Very clearly can you tell where every episode
and it's
starts
also we talk about this in our Bender's Big Score episode, which none of you have heard yet.
Right.
But that movie, even though it's a straight to DVD movie, they made it feel bigger. They made it, even though it's 4 episodes smashed together, they increased the scale. They made it this big, crazy event. It felt to me like that movie. I could have watched that movie in the theater for the first time, and it would have felt bigger and like a bigger, more exciting version of Futurama.
Yeah.
That is not how this one feels.
No,
not at all.
There is no flair whatsoever.
None.
Which I think is funny to me because there's like later episodes of Family Guy that get and then there were fewer where all the characters die. That is extremely cinematic. It's way more cinematic than this. So it shows that like the characters in the show is like capable of doing that. But here they don't put any stank on it. I think the only point in which I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of bigger, is like the last few shots.
Mm-hmm.
like it was or the last few shots of like the actual story,
The
because even
movie,
after
not
even after the film ends, they do like a thing where like they ask the characters, hey, how does it feel to be back, and all of that stuff, which I do think uh plays into like my ongoing um Family Guy thesis, which is that the show works because I think a lot of people's issue with it, and my issue with it, like as a teenager, was that like, fam, this literally makes no sense. Everything, every action these characters do to each other contradicts each other. Like, and like, you do some episodes that say like, oh, we're supposed to care, and you do some episodes that say, oh, we're not supposed to care. And I think the way that the show works is the show tells you exactly what it is the moment it cuts on, which is like, think of the theme songs, right? You think of the Simpsons theme song, you think of like the American Dad theme song, you think of like even the Cleveland Show theme song, and they all kind of have a similar pattern in which they're all really like day in the lifey. You see Bart writing on the
Mm-hmm.
chalkboard, you see Homer at work, you see Stan getting ready for work, you see Cleveland with his family kind of thing. And but the Family Guy intro is different because they're literally putting on a show.
Right.
So I think when you look at the
Yeah.
show that way, when you look at the show in a way where it's like, oh, so these are actors, like these characters are kind of like actors, and every week they just kind of put on a different show. You think of like Mickey
That's
Mouse
interesting.
and Donald Duck and Goofy, they don't have a set life. You know what I mean? They kind of,
Yeah.
and when you see them in a different area, like when you see like that Prince and the Pauper thing they did like in the 80s, or like you see the Mickey Mouse shorts, those two things can coexist and they can still be Mickey, Donald, and Goofy.
Mm.
And
That's really interesting.
I think that's the way that, like, if that is one of the things that bothers you with the execution of Family Guy, I would maybe recommend trying to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because I think
That's
it
the thing is, yeah, you can't. I feel like you can't go into Family Guy looking for like a rich. I mean, you can't. There's there is going to be examples of it, but like going into it for like a rich narrative experience is maybe not what it
right.
is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've gone on a roller coaster in my opinion with Family Guy. Like I was
Likewise.
fucking obsessed with it for so long. Like loved it. And then it was pretty quickly into its revival that I started feeling sour on it. Um and I don't know if it was just me getting older and me being like, huh, or it was probably a combination of that. Um, and just like, I don't know, the show changed and leaned into cutaways more. And like, it was, it's gone through a whole evolution, but I, for years, didn't like Family Guy. For years, I was like, don't like or respect that show. It's not a real, it's
Right.
not a real narrative show.
Right.
But I've
Likewise.
kind of come around on it as like a it's like a sketch comedy show. It's almost like a sketch comedy show disguised as a
Mm-hmm.
narrative show. And like, you got your character shit. There's plenty of character shit over the years and that's interesting, but like I think there's a lot of fun value in the cutaway gags. And it's there's not many shows that can just do that all the time. you know
Right.
uh and some of my favorite, I still remember so many gags that are cutaway gags that just I think are hysterical. You know what I mean? They're just like, that's a really funny bit and it lasted 10 seconds in this Family Guy episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
man, I think about how, like, right, one of the common things you hear people talk about is okay, well, like characterization, for example, right? They think of like Peter and they say like, oh, how did he go from like this really caring dad that meant well and everything like that to what he is now, where he basically doesn't care about his family and everything like that. He's just
Yeah.
this really big cartoon character. And like, I used to think like that too, but like, I think my thing about it is that like, you're talking about an era in which Family Guy literally didn't know what it was.
Right.
You watch those early episodes, and number one, the entire first season was made in a matter of months. Because
I didn't
Seth
know that.
MacFarlane
I guess it's only
was
6 episodes.
Yeah, because Seth MacFarlane was the youngest showrunner in the history of television, and they came up to him and they said, "Yo, that pilot, we like it. Yo, we want more." And he was like, "Okay, cool." He was like, "Yeah, but we want to air it in front of the Super Bowl," and the Super Bowl was like 8 months from that date that they said that to him.
Oh my
So he
God.
had to, and he didn't have a writing team, he didn't have a cast, he didn't have anything. Everything was built from the ground up really fast. So those first the first season, that first 6 or 7 is just like they had to go and they had to do it immediately. And like, but yeah, the first and the second one is just like Family Guy not knowing. Wait, what's going on?
What's wrong? Did I
I don't
disappear?
know. No, I got like a bunch of error stuff. I don't know. I'm gonna keep
Oh
going.
shit.
Mikey, oh well, you right? Get us out of
Yeah.
here. This part.
I think I'm cutting this one.
What was I talking about? This Family Guy and Seth. Oh, right.
Youngest showrunner, 8 months, Super Bowl.
Yeah,
We had to make it real fast.
yeah. So like the show didn't know what it was and what it wanted to be and like the kind of stories that it wanted to tell. Uh, so I don't necessarily know if it's fair to like go like that's kind. You know what that's like? It's like looking at the Simpsons and looking at the first season of the Simpsons and looking at like season 5 and saying, well, Homer wasn't this fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they didn't know what they wanted to do back then yet. They were
Yeah.
still trying to figure it out. Now, if you like
Totally.
that, if you like that different, if you like that more, then that's fine. You know, that's all preference. You know, story stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I can totally get why you wouldn't want to see like a character behave that way, but to kind of make it seem like it's just like some like weird uh thing that like it's almost like people use that to say that the writers are incompetent and that they didn't do it on purpose. I feel
Right.
like I feel like that kind of makes people sound like they think the people that make Family Guy are stupid, and they aren't, because they
Right.
know what they're
Right.
doing and they know what kind of show that they want to make. It
Yeah. The
just
show
took
has
them a
been
while
on
to figure it out.
for 20 seasons. They
Right,
know what they're doing. That is
right.
an impossible task for the vast majority of television makers.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if it's not your cup of tea, that's great, but you're not you don't know better than them.
Right,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? They know what they're doing. Not,
right.
Boner Jams 25 on fucking Twitter isn't a more competent writer than the Family Guy staff.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And there's tons of shows that you can go to where like all of the things that you're saying that the show doesn't have. There's tons of shows that do have that. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
um, and looking for it in this is like you just kind of wasting your time. And you know, I kind of feel like too that yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like there's sometimes there's a place for like just that nonsensical free form, just kind of like anything goes, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Like um sometimes there's value in that, but it all depends on the person. And but I don't know. Family Guy has different eras, and I don't think people realize that because they kind of lump it into, oh, okay, I just kind of hate this right now. But
Right.
like that really offensive stand, because people think that Family Guy is like super duper offensive, and I think that Family Guy had a really offensive run. I feel like there's an
Hmm.
era of Family Guy that's like really offensive, where like there's like I'll watch those and I'll be like, what the fuck? Like they'll do jokes where I'm like, gee, all right, geez.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it's somewhere, and honestly it kind of kicks off in a revival, but not really. So I'll be fair and say like it's like from like season 5 to 10, 11 or something like that. Like
Right.
which is a big
That's a
portion. So I
good
can
chunk.
understand why
Yeah.
that why that's still what people think. But like nowadays, like granted, every once in a while something will happen on there, and you'll go like, oh yeah, that's kind of offensive, or like I didn't like
Mm-hmm.
that. Great. I'm not saying that the show is never offensive nowadays, but now it's just kind of stupid, and that's my favorite Family Guy. My favorite Family Guy
Yeah.
is stupid Family Guy. My favorite Family Guy is dad joke Family Guy, like where they, because that like especially in those early ones and the later ones have a lot of just like conversational humor, dad jokey kind of humor, like uh and though that's kind of like my favorite stuff my favorite stuff that the show does. And I don't know, uh looking back on like the earlier ones, it's like you can see like a lot of their intentions, like the logo, the eye has the little TV on top.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of older episodes start with them watching television, uh
That's true.
and partially is because you watch those really earlier ones, Peter does nothing but he blatantly says like, "Oh yeah, nah, it's just like Happy Days or it's like the Fonz and stuff
Right.
like that." Like he consecutively brings up television, and I think the thing is supposed to be that that's where all of his values come from. It's a guy trying to
Yes.
raise a family with
That
his
is,
television values.
and that is what the theme song says.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also that theme song is a parody of All in the
In
Family
the
theme song.
family, right?
Yeah. And so that's it seems today that all you see is violence and movies and sex on TV. Where are the good old fashioned values on which we used to rely, which is very much a like, if it's parodying All in the Family and it's referencing these old television programs, it's
Mm-hmm.
referencing this stuff, that is like spot on. That's exactly what it is.
Right. But
And
I think
how long can that be? It can be that,
right. But there's one thing about it is that I think the one piece of that everybody misses, because sometimes people kind of call the theme song out as kind of a contradiction, but I think the one part that everybody misses about that is that Peter learns all of the wrong stuff from television.
Yes, totally.
So it's supposed to be a juxtaposition. They're
Yeah.
saying, hey, this guy has all of the values that that we say that we miss, when really he has all of the dated values of the stuff that came before. All of the
Yeah.
like, and that's why when you watch episodes, Family Guy gets mad violent. There is a lot of sex on Family Guy, but that's the joke. The
Right.
entire thing is just is like a juxtaposition, and I think that's something that like people, yeah, I've seen people try to use that as like, well, they say this in theme, and then they go, how can you say that and do that? It's like, you might not be thinking about it the right way, because this
Yeah.
is what they're doing. They're twisting it like that.
Man, that's so interesting. That actually makes me look forward to when we do cover those first few seasons of Family Guy, and like really dissect it from that angle. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, and I mean, and to go back to our conversation about how shows go through eras and change, it's like when a show's been on as long as these ones, like this one has, or The Simpsons has, or South Park has, like all three of those shows distinctly have different eras. Even within
Mm-hmm.
that, like the quote unquote golden era of The Simpsons, like you can't tell me that season 2 feels like season 8. You know what I
No,
mean? It's not the same thing, and it's
no.
still, I love them both tremendously, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's you start to, this is kind of a thing that I talk about a lot in media, but you grab something that you like as a measuring stick when something
Right.
changes, and you're like, and you hoist it up and you say, see, it's not this anymore, and that means it's
Mm-hmm.
bad. But when you look at The Simpsons, like season 8 is incredible, and if you stick that up to the season 2 measuring stick, it's not the same thing. And so it's
Right.
just a matter of like, if people start to perceive a dip in quality, or there's doing something they don't like, that's when they pull out these like objective qualifiers where they're just like, oh, objectively this isn't what it was before, and that means it's bad. But that's not how. First of all, you're objectively using the term objective wrong, and second of all, that's just not how television works. Why or storytelling? Why do you want the same things over and over? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
let a
exactly.
show evolve and change. Let a show change over the years. And maybe Family Guy had an era that was not as strong, or had things to be more critical of. But the show's been on for a very long time, and there's room for shows to change again. Like I think about that with South Park a lot too. South Park feels so different over the years, and like even now, the pandemic and vaccination special feels so drastically different than even just 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Even Simpsons, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like, again, the average person that just kind of goes, "Oh, this is bad now," wouldn't do this much thinking about it. But you could even look at, I don't know, say season 20, right? Season 20 and season 30, they feel different. They do. Like, they actually do. Like, and one of the things we didn't talk about this in the Simpsons movie one, but one thing that I always noticed was that, like, the movie more or less was kind of the start to like a change that I noticed in Marge, uh, where the Marge that Osei we grew up with, right? It was kind of like, lack of a better term, she was kind of like really passive, and like if Homer would do something, she would just kind of like maybe be a little humiliated, but she would stand up for him and everything like that. But the later Marge, like the Marge of today, she's like, she gets visibly annoyed, which is something that like 20 years ago is foreign. But like, she regularly gets visibly annoyed at Homer, like to the point where like the writer's almost like, fam, we've been writing her with him for 30 years. She's got to be tired by now. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, and they do that to her. And like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of worth in looking at shows and seeing how they deal with stuff like that over time, instead of just putting everything in a vacuum and just going like, okay, this is how this is and this is how that is.
Agreed. And
but like, nah,
as we talked about this last week,
time.
right? And we talked about this last week. By all means, have your preferences. Like
Absolutely.
I very much love early Simpsons, and more than a lot of what's come more recently or later than that. But I also acknowledge that the show can't just be what it was for 20 years. It can't be the same thing for 20 years. That's not a thing. That just can't be a thing. And that's okay. Which is one of the reasons I'm very intrigued and interested to revisit Family Guy, a show I've really only watched the first 7 or so seasons of. Maybe a little more than that. But I've seen a handful of episodes. You showed me some episodes from later stuff that I thought were pretty interesting and fun, and I'm eager to see what the show has changed into and how it's evolved over the years. It should be interesting, especially as someone who is so fanatical about it as I was back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like now they're kind of more open to experimenting, and they do like they last season they had an episode called Customer of the Week, which was just like a really
I watched that one.
Yeah, that was like the really fascinating character piece on Lois.
Yeah, I really liked that episode.
Yeah, they do stuff like that now that I really appreciate. And I don't know, like I get on here and I talk about how much I love Family Guy, just because of like there was a point in time where like it was literally all I could watch. and I don't know, not once in any of my Family Guy rants or tangents did I say that I felt like the show was perfect or uh without sin or without blemish or not problematic. There are definitely things, many things about the show
Yeah.
where you could watch them with your 2021 glasses and be like, no.
Same is
And that
true for
is
South Park,
okay.
and yeah, and same is true for South Park, and truthfully, the same is true for some things in The Simpsons, probably to a lesser degree, but there's
Mhm.
definitely things in The Simpsons that don't hold up with 2021 glasses, you know, and
Right.
that's just the reality of making things for this long through different eras of the world. You know, you can't just expect everything to you know, hold up to scrutiny in every era. Things and ideas and people are constantly changing and evolving and learning, and that's a part of the human experience.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And if these shows are all reflections of the human experience, then they are going to reflect those things. So, um, yeah, you know what? Someone we got an angry comment last week because we talked for 45 minutes before getting into the actual content of the movie, and you know what? We did it again.
We did do it again. We did it again.
We did it again.
Uh,
Um, but
oh
do we want
man.
to like what do we have to say about this? It's 3 episodes of Family Guy. I guess we did talk a bit about the like structure and how it's
Mhm.
formatted and stuff. You know what I want to bring up is I noticed two interesting parallels to the Simpsons movie.
Okay.
Um, but drunk Stewie, we had drunk Bart.
Oh yeah. I wrote down the
um,
you're drunk, you're sexy.
you're
I thought
sexy.
it's really
That
funny.
is that is a line that was always that is like a line that has always stuck in my head over the years.
It's really funny.
Always. Um, and I guess these aren't as much interesting parallels as much as they are like, oh, like they both did these things. Um, and fucking Peter pretending to be Spider-Man doing his like na na
Uh,
na 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 Batman thing.
yeah.
And that just instantly made me think of the Spider Pig thing. And I'm like, this is very similar in that they are both um they're both just like Homer and Peter making up a bad song set to a theme tune,
Right.
both involving Spider-Man. It's very funny. But I thought that was just really interesting that both of these things had that.
Yeah. No, I didn't even do the science on that. You definitely you definitely got me there. I didn't even
I'm doing all kinds of science this
yeah,
week.
right. I think
Oh,
speaking of drunk Stewie, I think when Brian and Stewie get drunk at the bar, I think it's really funny.
I do
Uh
too. I actually really think Drunk Stewie is funny.
I do too.
Um, my favorite Drunk Stewie is um when he's trying to tell everyone he's going to jump from the shelf to his high chair. I love him just trying to get everyone's attention to be like, I'm going to jump from this shelf to my high chair. Like, it's so I love how he says it. It's so funny. That gave me a big laugh.
Yeah, that's what Peter says. Peter says, Stewie, will you quiet down? It grinds my gears when you do that. And which is like, I like that, I don't know. I like that. This is an earlier one, so like the characterization is a bit different. I don't think if they were to do this story today, I don't know if it would go the same way. But like
Right.
Lois is just like really attracted to the fact that
He's
Peter
on
is like
TV.
well known and he has a catchphrase and like
Yeah.
they go to like these fancy restaurants, all this stuff, and like she's so fixated on him saying, "Hey kid, that grinds my gears when you interrupt me."
Yeah.
That she doesn't even flinch on the fact that like the baby jumps and it's just and then he says he's yelling about his like this gash he has on his leg like immediately after, and she doesn't do
Yeah.
anything.
Doesn't hurt though. Yeah, man, it's true. It is really funny. Negligent parents, I would say, but
Right.
it's uh it's a really funny bit. I think Drunk Stewie is really funny. Um he dr- he drives home, right? He crashes the car.
Yeah,
That's why
incident.
that's why Peter loses his job.
Right.
But it's so funny how like the through line of the Stewie story is like him discovering this guy he thinks is his dad, and that is the thing that carries over episode to episode to episode. That is like the through line for this movie. But every individual movie episode has a completely separate B plot for the rest of the family that are totally disconnected from one another. This one has the grind my gears B plot. Like that's Peter's thing in this one. Is that the second one that's them trying to teach the kids like how to date?
Oh yeah, that is the second one.
And then what's the third? What do they do in the third?
The retirement home stuff. They try to put them in a home because they go to the future.
Right. Oh, and it's the future stuff. That's right. That's where the B plot exists, is in the future. Yeah, it's
which I do
there are some jokes that made me laugh.
I do think that the movie does a semi clever narrative thing. Which is in the start of the second episode, they go and get like TiVo, which is like I guess in 2021, depending on who you are, you might not,
It was brand new at the time.
Yeah, TiVo. Yeah. So I guess in 2021, you might not know what that is.
Right.
But TiVo, that's like you could pause, rewind, record. It was, TiVo was lit back then. I couldn't, when my mom got TiVo, boy, I was happy as hell. So like, but they make the family get TiVo early on. And then when Stewie sees who he thinks to be his actual dad on the TV,
he can pause.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay.
I did do the science on that one. I was like, oh, that's why they did the TiVo thing. That's why they made such a big deal of the TiVo thing. I also thought it was very funny and clever that they fast forwarded the scene where they buy TiVo. That was a good gag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. But then even each individual one had like, the first one is like the Stewie and Brian. What was the impetus of them getting drunk? Is he dealing with his near death experience, or like what is him?
Yeah.
Why is he getting?
It's Stewie. Yeah, Stewie trying to. Stewie approaches Brian earlier about like trying to find a way to calm down from the near death experience, and Brian's just kind of like, well, you got to find like your own way to cope, and like.
They just get drunk.
Like what you could do. And then while Brian's telling him to do that, he's drinking. And then Stewie's like, well, let me have some. And Brian's like, no. And he gives him like a quick talk to, and then he walks off, and then Stewie goes and tries it anyway. And that's how Stewie ends up drunk at the table. And then Brian keeps trying to stop Stewie to drink which is really, really dumb logic on Brian's part. But Brian says, all right, you know what? Which is okay. He does like a Hank Hill thing because Hank does a Hank Hill. Yeah, yes. He's like, I'm gonna get you so drunk that you never want to drink again. Which is like,
it's the cigarettes thing in season 1 of
which I just well, okay. I don't know. You want to talk about that with Hank? I think that's debatable. I don't know if I think that.
I don't think that is a premise that they would have done in King of the Hill after season 1.
No,
I don't think Hank would have done it. I do think that's a fun episode, especially because it shows like how fucking desperately addicted to cigarettes they become.
Has Hank smoked since?
Yes, in the two-part episode where he's accused of murdering Debbie. He starts smoking in that episode, and then he accidentally smokes a joint, and that's why he thinks he thinks he blacked out and may have murdered Debbie because he smoked one hit of a joint.
Right.
And he tries to induce vomiting afterwards. Those two episodes are excellent. Really good.
They are. Yeah. I actually, when you said two-parter, I'm like, he smokes in Returning Japanese? Because that's what I think of when I think of King of the Hill two-parter. But
no, it's he's so stressed. He's so stressed from something that he starts smoking again, and then that's how they lead him to the. That's how they lead him. You know what? I think it's because he has to do more work because Buck and what's her name? Miss Liz. Buck and Miss Liz are splitting up, and she starts to run Strickland because she gets it, and then Hank has to do all like a bunch more stuff, and he's dealing with like Miss Liz and all of this like drama between the two of them, and so he starts smoking because of it. Miss Liz like comes on to him. There's so much
Right.
going on in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
I think that's the only other time we see him smoke cigarettes is then.
so what do you land on like that logic that both Hank and Brian follow, where they're just kind of like, oh, we're gonna make you do
I
this so much to it you don't want
it's
to do it anymore.
I think it's a trope. I think um I think it's been in other things before. Like I think it's a thing some people have. I think it maybe is. It's definitely something I've heard on TV outside of King of the Hill. Like I know I've heard of that like tactic for like getting you to stop smoking. Or maybe it's in real life. Maybe it's a thing that real people have been like, yeah, they made me like I smoked a cigarette. And my dad made me smoke every one in the pack, and then I never smoked again or whatever. I think because in King of the Hill it's a carton, isn't it?
It's a fucking carton. It is.
That is sociopathic. Like
It is. It actually is. Yeah.
So fucking bad. Not even a Pack-A-Day smoker would enjoy smoking a carton of cigarettes.
No.
That is disgusting and probably did irreversible damage to Bobby Hill.
That is my thought process with that, and every time I think of that scene, because again it's season 1, so it's the early models, and I remember thinking like, did Bobby's head get like deformed at a certain point from smoking all of those? Because he starts to look insane, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Man.
And obviously Family Guy is a little more cartoony than King of the Hill. Like King of the Hill kind of exists within real world rules. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Family Guy, like, it's a little sillier. Like they like drunk baby doesn't hold as much weight in Family Guy as it would in King of the Hill. You know what I mean? Like if they fucking fed Good Hank like a beer in King of the Hill, you'd be like, what the fuck? But it's a child who talks. You know what I mean? It's a baby who talks in Family Guy. It feels very different. I don't think it's a good strategy, but I think it fits the show. You know what I mean? But it is it's like a very different vibe between the two shows because they have different internal logic and different tones as shows. Yeah. And I think Drunk Stewie's funny. It's very funny.
Yeah, me too. I like I like when when Brian and Stewie are at the bar and they're both drunk. Well, I think like when they're about to take their first drink, Stewie does his toast and he says, "To the black man, thanks for taking it all in stride," which I think is really funny.
His delivery, Seth MacFarlane's delivery in that is really funny.
Thanks for taking it all in stride.
Drunk Stewie is funny. Yeah. It's just all there is to it. Drunk Stewie is funny. And then so that's the plot of the first episode with Stewie and Brian. Second one is discovering. It's basically the second one is Road to San Francisco. It's them going on a road trip to find this man who is clearly like related to Stewie, and then discovering it's future Stewie, which is a fucking bonkers twist that I forgot about until I rewatched it this time. I went out in the middle of rewatching it, seeing older Stewie. I remember that was when I remembered, oh yeah, it's fucking future Stewie. I totally forgot that they go to the future and all that stuff. And then the third episode is them in the future. It's called Stewie and Stu's Excellent Adventure, which is a Bill and Ted reference. And so yeah, it is. It's like three very distinct episodes, even though there is that through line for and they bring it back around. They bring it back, Stu's thing back around to the near-death experience, which is at least makes that story function almost like a movie.
Right. But you know what? Because I remember thinking that too, and I think in the beginning it could almost feel like oh, okay, this is just the beginning of a movie. Like this is all set up, but they have to tell a whole half-hour story So it
Exactly.
gets stretched a little too longer for it to feel like setup, and it's just like, am I just watching an episode of the show? Like that's kind of what it
Right.
turns into. If they didn't have to do that, then I feel like it would have flowed better. The second part is also, again, we said the second part is also the one where Peter and Lois want to have more alone time at the house, but Chris and Meg are always there. So they spend time with them to kind of like, just like, oh, maybe you guys should just start, like, go out and start dating or whatever. And they spend time with them just trying to teach them, like, dating etiquette and stuff like that.
Right.
And that has there's a lot of jokes that I didn't get until I was an adult for obvious reasons. And one of them is where Lois says, all right, Chris, it's time that we practice eating out at a fancy restaurant. And you see like the silverware and shit.
You know what's funny is I specifically was gonna bring that joke up, and I did get it. I did get it when I mean, you know, I was older than you when this came out, so I got the joke, but and it always stood out to me. But there is a different eating out joke in this movie that I didn't get as a kid, and I did get this time. And it's when Quagmire comes out of the pool house with that girl and is like, I guess I can't swim for 30 minutes.
Oh yeah. I caught that this time too.
And this time I was like, oh, and it was funny because I like actively remembered that joke from being a kid and not really getting it and being like, oh, you just can't swim after you have sex. That was like in my brain as a kid.
Right,
I was
yeah.
like, what? But I got it this time. You know, it only took 15 years.
Right.
But
we made it here.
You know what I also noticed? This is a weak transition, but it's another thing that there are two of in this movie that just kind of confused me. I was like, would they really do two of these? There's two Indiana Jones cutaways. They do two cutaway gags that are one. Indiana Jones. They do the one where Stewie is Short Round from Temple of Doom.
Right. That's the one.
And then shit, what is that going? They do a Holy Grail one. They do the one where he pulls Jesus's mug. He's like, I think it's this one.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So it's the mug that says Jesus. I mean,
It's another good gag. That's a funny gag. I like that a lot. Good. Man.
So the second part has we talked about this on the last episode, but the second part is where it has a really, really, really weird storytelling issue that I've never seen happen before. Which, if you're watching these as episodes of Family Guy, it doesn't matter. Like if you're watching it as individual episodes, but if you're watching it together as a film, it 1000% matters. Which is Brian and Stewie both go to San Francisco. They go together, and like. They see like Stu. They see him going into like a hotel or something like that. And when they run in, Brian and Stewie both agree to split up. Brian runs in one direction, and then we follow Stewie. And then that is the last time you see Brian for the duration of this film. He does not show back up until literally like the end part comes up, and they do all that fourth wall breaking stuff at the end.
Right.
Like, but you don't see him for the rest of the story. And watching this as a whole, you see that Stewie, he meets Stu, and then he says, I'm you, and then it fades out, and then the intermission happens, and then the next episode starts. So if you're just watching Family Guy, you're just watching an episode with adult Stewie and baby Stewie. And you're not wondering where Brian is because it's a different episode, and maybe you forgot that Brian even came. But if you're watching a movie, and even just like you could even throw out story-wise, like character-wise, Brian in either era, in any era of Family Guy, I don't see him leaving Stewie by himself.
Right. They only did it because they needed to get Stewie to meet Stewie. Without Brian being there. Like it was just a way for that to be the focus is those two.
But I feel like because I thought about it while watching the film, right? And I do feel like they could have told this story and kept Brian there too.
Yeah, it would have to change a few things about it, but
Well, actually,
because Brian's dead in the future
yeah,
from eating
that's
chocolate.
that's the hard part about it.
Yeah,
Is that Brian's
and
supposed to be dead.
yeah, and they're trying to trick the family about little Stewie, even though like Lois can obviously see through it.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand it, but it is weird. It is weird that like Brian's a big part of it, and then in the third one, not only is Brian not gone with them, but he's dead in the future. So we only see him for one cutaway gag in heaven, and then after, like as an episode, in fact, he's probably in a total of a minute. Like if in the full
Honestly,
episode version, not the movie version, he's probably in that episode a total of 1 minute.
that reminds me of a joke they do in a later episode, where I don't remember what the episode is or what's going on. I just know that Brian is not in the entire episode. And at a certain point they do a gag where like it's like one of those, like, like you in like the mid 2000s you'll watch TV and then like something will pop up on the screen and it'll be like, oh, a fact about the episode, and then it'll just say a little blurb on the side. The joke they do is they put like a blurb up and it says Family Guy friends freaked out when Brian was killed, but did they miss him in this episode? And and it's meant to make you go, oh shit, Brian's not here. Like,
Right.
That's what it did for me the first time I saw it. I was like, fuck, wait, he's not in this one. You're right.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And I guess the internal logic of this movie is that once Stewie goes back in time to change the past, it doesn't matter that Brian's in San Francisco anymore. He changes the timeline, right? So
Right.
yeah. So
I think I think the joke where Brian is dead is really, I think it would have gone a different way if they did it today. Because of how pretentious Brian is now.
Right.
Because he's with all of those people, all those really like influential
famous
people.
artists and musicians. Yeah.
And they're like, man, I just got so depressed that I had to, you know what I mean? There was so much going on with just this and that. And Brian was like, yeah, I just kind of got in some chocolate in the trash.
In the trash.
Yeah. Like, and the fact that like, yeah, like older Brian would have earned, he would have owned that. Like how he does here, he just kind of like, he's ashamed of it, but it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like that's just kind of what happened. But like, if they were to do that today, he would have 1000% lied. Brian is just kind of like a joke. What's the I always get the name of that book wrong. The book that's like, was that 1983? Is that the name of the book?
1984. You were so close.
1984. I always get the name of the book wrong. But anyway,
you get the year wrong.
in an episode in the last season, right? Brian like meets what is supposed to be like his first family, and he sees that they have 1984 on the shelf, and he's like, 1984 could happen, right? And the guy's like, which part? He was like, just all of it. All of it, you know? It's like, you didn't even fucking read the book. Like, what are you talking about?
That's so funny. I do miss, like, that joke is so funny because, like, I feel like, and I don't know, maybe you can speak to this, but the humor in Brian used to be how he's like clearly a person.
Yes.
Like who does all these things and then is still like he'll still succumb to those dog things sometimes. Like the idea that Brian died because he ate chocolate out of the trash is very funny because that's how a dog would die. Right. Even though Brian's not a dog. You know what I mean? He's definitely not a dog. Yeah, it's funny stuff. I don't know if they keep up with that kind of shit. But
They do. It does keep going. There's a line in the later one where like they're like doing something really serious, and then Brian just kind of gets caught up chasing his tail, and Stewie watches him. He's like, "You're a weird doggy guy, Brian. You're just a weird doggy
That's really
guy."
Funny.
Wait, Okay, that reminded me of a different one because because the one I'm thinking about is so funny. Stewie, there's an episode where like Stewie and Rupert get into an argument because he finds out that Rupert used to be Chris's toy when Chris was Stewie's age.
Oh.
And like Stewie, I ain't gonna lie, Stewie starts tripping, bro. That nigga go to like, he goes to like, what is he? He goes to like Cancun or something like that, like in vacations because he needs to take time off to like clear his mind. And he's on the beach, and then like a tour guy walks up to him, and he's like, excuse me, little boy, where are your parents? And Stewie's like, oh, I'm kind of like a dude baby. It's so funny because he is. They have to acknowledge the fact that this is a baby that traveled by himself.
That's so funny. Oh my god.
I'm just a dude baby.
I'm a dude baby. Oh man. Let's see. I did feel like,
Yeah.
you know, not to get into the negative territory, I do feel like there's a lot of jokes that don't hold up in this episode or in this movie. I don't know, maybe this is par for the course for Family Guy back in the day, but like a lot of uncomfortable racist shit.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Especially like with I mean, it's so interesting because this was the thing that she's been scrutinized for before. But like Trisha Takanawa, the character that is played by definitely played by Alex Bornstein. You can kind of tell from the voice, and she's been criticized because in Mad TV, one of her famous characters was an Asian woman named Miss Swan, who admittedly, when I was a child, loved those sketches. Thought they were so funny when I was a kid. But you know, it's like I get, you know, I guess all of these shows do that. Like obviously The Simpsons has done it, South Park does it, Family Guy does it. Like they have all these, like they have white folks voicing not white folks a lot.
I think Alex Boy, I'm pretty sure she was Loretta too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I guess, and they, especially a lot of these shows, when they have a voice, and they have a versatile voice performer, they give them as many voices as they can. That's like, that makes sense logistically for creating an animated show. And that's how all of this happens, you know. That's how it happens. But yeah, man, there's some uncomfortable jokes, especially that opening stuff with the premiere where she's just like,
man, because it got rough really quick. I was like,
yeah.
It got rough really quick.
Definitely.
That's the thing. I want to reiterate that I am full and well aware that there's a lot of stuff that doesn't age well. There's a lot of stuff that's unnecessarily offensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, even in regards, like, I'm not one of those like, oh, y'all are too sensitive. Like, I want to make that clear that, like, in my enjoyment of the show does not come from those aspects of it. Like, I am a sensible human being. I can like roll my eyes at some of those jokes and be like, man, come on, like, I didn't have to. There's definitely like a lot of that stuff that I don't enjoy. But like, me personally, I choose not to harp on it just for the sole fact of the matter being that, like, it was a completely different era. As long as you're not doing that kind of stuff now in your 2021 brain where everybody is vocal and everybody's listening to each other and listening to like, hey, well, even if we are joking, these things that we're joking about have these implications, and it could do this, that, and everything to harm. And you know, I feel like the show sometimes feels guilt in that regard for you know, sometimes perpetuating certain narratives or like putting certain stereotypes out there even more to where like, you know, because kids watched Family Guy growing up, and it's not Family Guy's fault that kids watched Family Guy. I want to
Right.
make that
It was on
clear too. You know what
Adult
I mean?
Swim.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the kids, me, I am kids that watched Family Guy, and I was not supposed to be, but I
Right.
did, and I did get like I did learn negative stuff from it. But you know,
Yeah.
I think the whole point that we talked about earlier about how Peter learns all of the wrong things from television, and that's kind of like the point of the show is saying like you can't get your values from television. You know what I mean? Like you gotta
Right.
get them from actual real world experience and like stuff like that.
Right.
And you can't be dependent on these characters to be the stand-ins for your values and
Yeah.
for all of them to always do the right thing. But again, that is that is that is not an excuse. That's an explanation. That's not an excuse.
Right.
You know what
And
I
that's
mean?
the thing is like you can't watch this stuff in like a vacuum, you know what I mean? Like you have to, I think it's important and valuable to acknowledge that stuff. In fact, you have to. Like you can't watch old Family Guy or old South Park
Right.
and just kind of be like, "Well, yeah, this is fine." You know what I mean? But it doesn't also
Because I
mean
don't
you
think
can't.
they do.
Right.
I want to
Oh,
make
they
that clear.
definitely
I
don't.
don't. I don't
That
think they do either.
Oh, I don't think so either. And in fact, that's what my weirdly partially my latest South Park video is about. I showed some clips of Matt Stone and Trey Parker talking at the 20th anniversary, talking about how there's a lot of things that they've put into Family Guy that they look back and social commentary things, and they basically say, we missed the mark here, or I don't believe this anymore. But the reality is that is what they felt, and that's what they were saying at the time. And it's like a record. It's an imprint and record of their like where they were. And you know what? That's as I said, I say in this video, but that's true for all of us. We
Right.
all have believed and said or done problematic things in the past. You know what I mean? Like we've all like as children or, growing up and learning and, or, and not as children, as adults too, we're constantly learning these new things. And the
Absolutely.
difference is we don't have 20 seasons of television to remind us, you know what I mean?
Right.
Exactly how we were feeling in 2001. We can pretend we didn't think or believe those things, but that's not true. A lot
Right.
of us did, and that's and it's just the reality. And we have to, and I think it's important to acknowledge those things and acknowledge that these things happened and were
Absolutely.
commonplace, and you have to keep that in mind when you're watching it. And it's something you have to remember and you have to understand. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy media that contains these things anymore. Of course, you are very much, if you don't want to enjoy it for that reason, that is completely valid.
Absolutely. If
Yes.
they're all by all means, if you watch this film or any of anything in general, but even strictly on Family Guy, if you watch this film and there's one joke that makes you extremely uncomfortable, it is in your right to turn it off. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It is in your right to be like, no, I can't.
Can't do it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that's valid. I think that that's valid. Like
it definitely is. Yeah.
But
also, you can't like it's but it's another thing to, place your own, like to shame people who do enjoy that stuff and are, like it's to assign the blame of that content to the person who enjoys it in spite of that. You know what I mean? Like it's like just because I can go watch an old South Park episode and enjoy it doesn't mean that I believe all the things they said in those episodes or the words they used, and like, you know what I mean? Like it's just a little it's just a little excessive to be like, well, you must be this or that because you like this thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Because like even there could be like a really, really, really good episode, and it can have a horrible joke in the middle of it.
Yes.
But when I talk about that episode, I love what's around that episode. I don't love that specific joke, and it is okay to still enjoy the episode because they don't just that's the thing, right? Is that they don't just, there isn't a single thing where they just start an episode, say a bunch of swears, do a bunch of offensive jokes, say a bunch of slurs, and then play the credits. Like, that's not how it goes. I think of Eddie Murphy Raw, where he talks about how he got a phone call from Bill Cosby, and Bill Cosby was telling him that he was too vulgar on stage and that he would like curse and everything like that on stage. And then Eddie was just kind of like, you act like I just got on stage, cursed, and left. Like, there's jokes in between that. You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff, there's other stuff here, there's substance here. And I think that's true with a lot of media that we just kind of look back on and be like, yeah, because I'm not gonna lie and say that like I'm totally fine with everything in like every episode of Family Guy. There are episodes of Family Guy that like when I go and watch Family Guy, I purposefully skip. There's episodes I haven't seen in years because they make me genuinely uncomfortable. That episode with like Quagmire's sister and like the domestic abuse thing, it makes my skin crawl. Like I can't watch that.
And that's the thing is like there are like, especially a show like Family Guy or a show like South Park, like sometimes there are jokes that are like oof, but you know it's like it's outside of the rest of the story, you know what I mean? But sometimes there are things that are fundamentally flawed, and it's like, well, I can't deal. It's something we talked about with Futurama, Benter. You know, like there's episodes that were like, well, fundamentally, I think this is problematic. Whereas sometimes there's just jokes. There's jokes in Futurama that are problematic, but only a couple episodes that you feel like, oh, that's fundamentally problematic.
Perfect example. Phenomenal episode. Hell is Other Robots. It has that joke. That transphobic joke.
A transphobic joke.
Yeah, it has that transphobic joke. And I remember watching it, I was like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, I was so confused. But that's everybody is in agreement that is a phenomenal episode of Futurama.
Yeah.
But that one specific joke is like, what? Come on.
Yeah.
Like, why would you hear?
You know what? There's an interesting way to transition back to this movie. I was kind of surprised that it didn't play Meg's transition for laughs more in the future segment.
Yes. Yeah.
I fully expected the show to be very offensive about it. And you know, Peter did dead name Ron in that
but Ron corrects him, and that's just kind of it.
Right. Yeah. And even like I mean, maybe that was at that point to them that was just the joke. But like it is kind of shocking how there were really no jokes at Ron's expense in it. No. And it ends on like a nice sweet note where Meg like, it's like, Ron, I really like that name.
I thought that was sweet too. I thought I was tripping for thinking that was sweet.
Yeah.
I thought that was sweet too. Where like,
and Meg I don't know if they were, and I don't know if I like give them the benefit of the doubt. Cause I do feel like they maybe their intention was just like, isn't this funny? Like Meg transitions, you know what I mean? Cause like, it doesn't feel like the show that would play it sweet, but I think in the fact that they didn't do any other jokes at the expense of Ron, it's like, well, this is kind of just sweet. This is kind of just a sweet button to this story. I was very surprised. The moment Ron came in, I was like, oh yeah, how bad does this get? and it's really not that bad. It's wild.
Again, this is before Family Guy gets super offensive. Because you think to like, for example, the first episode with Ida, when Quagmire's dad transitions, like they just like Brian like vomits. You know what I mean? Like when he finds out, like, you know what I mean? Like that's rough. Like that's really like that's
totally
that's rough, and that's gross that they played it like that. But nah, that's why I'm saying with Family Guy has different eras, because that tone is not here.
Right.
you see how they deal with it here in comparison to how they deal with it there.
Yeah. I was shocked. I was genuinely like, I was like bracing for the worst. I was like, what? I did like trying to remember. And it's really just played. It's just played straight. It's Meg transitioned and is Ron. And other than, I guess they do a joke where they're trying to make fun of Ron for seemingly like overplaying guy things. You know what I mean? But it's like it was really tame stuff compared to what I maybe would have expected from Family Guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, they do a joke in the third part that with my 23-year-old brain, I was like, oh, this is actually really funny. And there was no way I could have possibly got this as a kid. But like as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is really funny. When Stewie tries to go back in time, but he goes too far and he goes to 1974. And he sees Condoleezza Rice in college, and she just has like this Black Panther. She's like, Black Panthers, crazy crackers, like she doing all of this shit, and like she like makes out with a white girl, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
Like I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Can I tell you my favorite joke in the whole movie? It's just a gag. It's a sight gag, and it made me cackle. And it was when Stewie jumps out the window, and then they cut outside, and it's a stuntman in a Stewie costume, and then he lands, and it's Stewie again. I laughed so hard at that joke because it's a cartoon. I wasn't expecting it. You know what I mean? Like, it's very funny. It's a really good gag.
I told my friend Steve, who I do sketch the rhyme with, because when I was like heavy on Family Guy, I got Steve back heavy on Family Guy because I couldn't stop talking about it. And one of the things I brought up was this film because I brought up about how Brian disappeared. And Steve was like, oh, I didn't realize that was a film. I always saw those as episodes. So Steve went back and watched those episodes, and then he texted the group chat and sent a picture of Stewie jumping out the window. And he was like, now that I know that this is a movie, this joke makes sense.
Oh man, I cracked up hysterically at that joke. I thought it was so funny.
There is a on-screen gag that gets me. That's early in the film when they're after the red carpet and they watch like the film trailers, and like right before the movie starts, they do that like green screen thing with like the text, and it's like now the feature presentation. At the bottom it says like, oh, yeah. Jerry, if you're in the audience, I slept with Diane. It's just really.
I thought this was the best way. To tell you.
So funny.
Sorry, man. See you at karaoke tonight.
Yeah.
Really good gag. That's a fucking funny joke. Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, you know what I also love? I truly enjoyed the Ferris Bueller tribute / homage at the end with him running through to try and get there in time. Even though it was just played just like Ferris Bueller, but like even in Ferris Bueller and in Family Guy, it's so funny when he runs past the girls sunbathing and then just walks back like, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
I do love that.
It's a funny gag no matter who is doing it. God, man, so good. Yeah, man, Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story.
Yeah.
Weird title, like, I guess. Why is it? What was untold about it?
I guess they wanted to make it feel like Lost.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess so. Even though they aired it on TV, man. But like, I guess we've talked about the things we like about this movie. I will say overall, I didn't love Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story.
Me neither. Less than I thought I did, which was kind of a weird realization for me, because so as everybody who listens to this podcast knows, I had a stint where like I was obsessed with Family Guy, and it recently ended, and it ending, my stint with Family Guy ending and watching this made me go, Oh, okay. So I guess this is how I feel about Family Guy when I'm normal. Because like when I had like this really big like hyperfixation on it for a really long time, honestly, because for a while it was kind of the only thing that I could watch because I just kind of I didn't need like critical thinking stuff, but like, you know what I mean? I just kind of needed something to put on and something to pacify me. And Family Guy was there for me in that regard. And watching this film, yeah, definitely I kind of went like, oh, okay. So like this like really big like, oh, I fucking love Family Guy like that. Like I think I'm out of that, and I think I'm just kind of like I'm like, yeah, I have a good time when I watch Family Guy. And when I watch this
Yeah.
one, like I think going into it and being like, okay, I'm going to watch this Family Guy film, and then I think it only dragged for me because I'm like, fam, these are literally episodes.
Yep.
And I could
That's
have
how I felt watching it.
just watched episodes. And I think, again, doing these, we talked about films for the past 2 weeks, and then coming here, it's like, oh, okay, there's definitely a big difference here.
Yeah, it does feel, you can really tell it. And even a difference between like Futurama's movies that did the same thing fundamentally, where they tied episodes together, but those feel bigger and more cinematic and more unified than this does. You know, this really does have three separate movies. Oh no, did you freeze?
No. Wait.
No, you just got real still for a minute. You just
Oh.
got real still, and I was like, "Oh no, Tariq's frozen." Last week we had a snafu where we almost lost all of Tariq's video. We actually uploaded a separate version of the episode that was Tariq's sketch. It was
Yeah.
the drawing of himself, and luckily Tariq was able to save the footage, and he re-edited the whole thing like
did.
the night before we dropped it.
Yeah,
It's very impressive.
I think it went up because you know when it goes up and then YouTube has to do like that check system thing. I
Yeah.
think they finished the check around like 8 a.m.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
And I posted it live at 8:30. I think, or did you schedule it?
Yeah. I think I scheduled it.
That's
and
so
I
funny.
like, man, see, because I went so after I edited it, I rendered it. I put it to render, and then it was gonna take like a minute to render. So I was like, okay. So I took like a nap, and I swear to God, I had a dream about the comment section. And I woke up in like sweat, drenched in sweat. Like I was like, all right, there's no way this is my life.
Oh, no.
Let me figure this out so I can like have actual sleep, because this is ridiculous.
Funny.
Yeah.
Man. Well, Stewie Griffin, the Untold Story. We got anything else to talk about with this one?
No.
We didn't talk about the movie all that much. We talked about some parts of it.
Yeah,
but,
because
you know,
it really is
it's
just
not a
3
movie.
episodes of Family Guy.
Yeah. You know what's funny is like, I don't know if this is just because like that's kind of the vibe with Stewie, is like the kind of thing is that he's always been like, oh yeah, he's like a gay baby, you know. but the whole plot about him like desperately wanting to get laid, I was like, this feels weird. Like I didn't, you know what I mean? I was like,
yeah.
I guess it's hard for me to picture Stewie with a woman for some reason, like, you know. And maybe that's just the like absorbing that vibe through osmosis of people being like, yeah, he's a gay baby, you know. It's like, and I was like, but I'd seen this before, so like I should remember it. But yeah, I thought that storyline was sad. Old Stewie was sad, man.
Yeah, man, you saw like his crib and how like dirty it was when he walked in.
Yeah,
like,
and he just had no backbone. Chris is a cop. Chris is a fucking cop.
Chris is a cop. I didn't do the science, but Chris is definitely Chris is a cop.
Oh man.
Can we call this episode "The Science of Family Guy" or something like that? We've been doing a lot of science.
The untold science of
the
Family
Untold
Guy.
Science. Stewie Griffin Untold Science. That's the name.
We did the science. It turns out this movie, just 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That's science. Man, well, let's talk about next week. I think we've decided we're going to do Beavis and Butthead Do America next week. I got one more week on this job, and then I'm free. We're gonna start doing seasons of TV again. Probably jump back into Archer, but I'm excited because Beavis and Butthead is a show I've seen plenty of. I really like Beavis and Butthead. It's been a long time since I've watched Beavis and Butthead though, and I remember loving Beavis and Butthead Do America. I remember it getting really fun and ridiculous, but I haven't seen it in like 15 years. You know, maybe a little less, but it's been a long time. So I'm eager to watch it. Excuse me, hiccup. I'm eager to watch it again, and especially having just not really watched much Beavis and Butthead recently. Right. I'm eager to just like be like, all right, let's watch Beavis and Butthead Do America. Like South Park. Watching the South Park movie, I watched plenty of South Park. Watching the Simpsons movie, I watched plenty of Simpsons. But I haven't watched Beavis and Butthead in years.
Yeah, so this would be different.
It's also going to be a weird show for us to cover. I don't know if you know.
Can you even find the original version of it?
Not as it. Well, I don't know if you can find it, but I know on DVD it does not exist in the format that it aired, and that's because of a lot of the music licensing things. There's so much of that show is just them doing commentary over music videos, which they were allowed to do because they were on MTV. What's that?
I think like Daria licensing stuff with like music and
but I think with Daria though, it's literally like the music they used within the show,
right? Yeah,
that has licensing issues. Whereas with Beavis and Butthead, it's basically little slices of stories, and then they have these little segments where they comment over music videos that were on MTV at the time, and then they go back to these little stories. So the volume DVDs have almost entirely those little stories, and then I think a couple of music videos here and there that they could like get the rights to, but tons of that shit is just unairable because they don't have the rights to the music anymore. And so I hope, in fact, if anyone knows this would be a good thing to throw out. If Beavis and Butthead exists how it originally aired, please point us in the right direction, because I would like to have that just for archives' sake. I would like to watch Beavis and Butthead as it existed. Even though I quite like a lot of the story stuff they do on Beavis and Butthead. I think it's funny. There's also a season of Beavis and Butthead that came out in like 2008.
Yes.
That is so funny. I think that season is so fucking funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's not only was the story stuff really funny. I remember the very first story was Beavis and Butthead in a movie theater. And they were watching Twilight Eclipse, and they just like showed some Twilight stuff up on the screen, and Butthead just goes, well, this isn't very good. That was just the first joke of new Beavis and Butthead. And then the other great thing they did in that season was that they never stopped watching MTV. So now instead of commenting on music videos, they're commenting on what was on MTV at the time, which is Teen Mom and Jersey Shore, like all of these reality shows that became MTV. And that was also funny. That was so funny to see them comment over that shit. And it was kind of a genius way to bring the show back. Unfortunately, those characters just didn't really connect with, I guess, my generation, millennials. Beavis and Butthead is a very Gen X show. It's very much it feels like punk rock TV. It's like the generation they raised on MTV, and then they were like, and now this show's making fun of MTV. You know what I mean? And now we get to find out how does Gen Z feel? What are they going to do for them? Because we're going to get Beavis and Butthead on Comedy Central in a 2-season pickup. They got a 2-season pickup. They got more seasons off the bat than they did for that revival in 2008. Right. And I'm pretty fucking eager to see what it is. But as for next week, we'll be watching the film Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Right.
Which I have to find to figure out. I bet you can buy it on YouTube or something. I'll rent it.
Is there a Blu-ray or something?
Let's look.
Because I think I wouldn't mind buying it.
I used to have all the volume DVDs of that show too. I should probably buy those. Budget only $12 million. That's bonkers.
Jeez.
And the box office was $63 million.
That's pretty good.
That's a successful. It's a successful movie. Let's see. Beavis and Butthead Do America. There is a DVD. There is no Blu-ray.
Okay.
There's no Blu-ray.
That sucks.
That upsets me. But you know what? I think I am gonna buy all of these Beavis and Butthead volume DVDs. I had them before. I don't anymore. There's a complete collection DVD.
Ooh.
I think that's the move. That's the move. Anyways, let us know if we can find unaltered Beavis and Butthead anywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
I don't like the reiteration of anywhere.
I will watch it on Pornhub. I don't care. Man.
Were you? I don't think you were there that day when we watched Ed, Edd n Eddy on Pornhub. But it's there. They had like the Christmas special on Pornhub, son. I was like, what are they doing? And then,
That's so funny.
I can't believe I'm about to go on a Pornhub tangent. Somebody in my server, okay, I don't remember which one of y'all it was, if one of y'all are watching. Somebody in my server added me and sent me a link to a Charlie Brown Christmas on Pornhub. And I was like, oh, see, I think I'm pussy. Why would you send me that? Like, come on, man.
That's so fucking funny. Anyways, we should probably watch Beavis and Butthead Do America on Pornhub for next week.
That might be the best way.
That is so funny. My God. All right. Well, you got anything else to say before we sign off?
Nah. This is
man.
3 episodes of Family Guy.
Yeah, and they were untold until they put them on DVD.
And then they told us.
So next week we do America. And with that, I want to say thank you to Michael Yunez for producing and editing this podcast. I want to thank Kerrifique for our amazing artwork, which we are going to apparently put on t-shirts soon, alongside our soon-to-exist fuck hoodie. So look out for that. My mom's going to be real disappointed when my first piece of merch is just a hoodie that says fuck. Thank you to Jakeneutron for our incredible theme song. That is quite the earworm. Thank you to Terrific Tariq, my good friend, for talking about Family Guy with me today, and also shooting the shit with me for like an hour and a half before we started recording.
Yeah,
that was nice. And thank you to you, the audience, for listening and watching. And if you like this podcast, rate, review, subscribe, do all the business, and leave a comment and tell us what you want us to talk about. And thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye now. Everybody do the science.